Good to see y'all. Thank y'all so much for being here. And yeah, we're going to talk about business planning today. I'm excited. It's it might be almost a little late in the season to be talking about it. But that's not a bad thing. It's better late than never, right? And so I appreciate y'all being here. As Lisa mentioned before the class, I like names. I especially when it's a small group. So if y'all could help me out with your names real quick. I know Lisa. I heard you say Bianca.
Yeah.
Help me out. What are y'all's names?
Karen Lee.
Karen.
Steven.
Steven, awesome. Well, nice to meet y'all who I haven't met before, and good to see y'all who I have before. And yeah, let's just jump right in because I know we've got a lot to talk about today. A lot of what we're going to discuss today is going to be based on the principles of the Red Book, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. But we're also going to be talking about a little bit from Real Estate Reset, a book that I wrote a couple of years ago. And we're going to jump right in. And so 2026, it's not here yet, right? So why are we here? I mean, or is it here yet? I don't know. I'm going to ask y'all. Do y'all think is 2026 when it comes to real estate, is it here yet?
Close ahead and not.
Yeah, we should be preparing for it.
Should be preparing closer than not being here. You know, I would actually argue 2026 kind of started on October 1st. You know why I say that?
The last quarter.
Well, it's not only the last quarter. Let me ask y'all, when you generate a lead, you were just talking about Activate, right? You're talking about Activate, live lead gen before today's class today. Any lead you generated today, on average, when do you think that lead would close?
Like if, it depends on how long it take to get into the,
Oh, sure. Like every lead's gonna be
like if
different.
you're just saying, like if they were ready to hit the ground running, looking right now as a buyer.
Could be that. Could be a listing.
Yeah.
February, March, somewhere in
Yeah.
there. Yeah, so about
90 days.
About 90 days. I think that's a good average, honestly. Because yeah, you will have some buyers that you run into that are ready to do something right now. If they call you at the very last minute, they're like, my lease is up, I need to get in there today. You might have some that call you today and they're like, yeah, my lease is up in November next year, and I want to get prepared, you know. And so every lead is going to be a little bit different. That 90 is a good average. So yeah, I mean, you know, it's not a bad thing that we're starting now, but I would honestly say that 2026 is here. It started in October. So let's hit the ground running and let's make sure that we're knocking this out. I want y'all to make sure be the explorer today to get the most out of our time together. Have y'all ever heard the terms be whether it's the prisoner, the vacation, or the explorer? Y'all ever heard that before? And so there's like three ways I think that you can approach jumping into a class or attending a class. One is like is being a prisoner, meaning like your coach, your team leader, whoever was like, hey, you got to be there. I don't care if you want to be there or not. You got to be there, right? And don't be that person. Like I'll tell them you came if you want to leave. That's you. You could be the vacationer, meaning, hey, being here is better than a day on the phones, you know, and I get that, but at the same time, I want y'all to be the explorer today. Like, you know, approach this like you're going to a whole new place to learn something all brand new and get the most out of our time together so that you can not only learn today, but then you can apply it into your business. So yeah, by the end of today, you see what we're going to run through. We're going to talk about how much money you're going to make in 2026, how many appointments you'll need, clarity on how many listings you need to take, and how to utilize leverage to grow your business. So let's jump in. I want to ask y'all, why are you here? Because it can't be just about sales. I'm curious. What is it? Why are y'all here today?
I'm here to figure out if what I think is what you think.
If what you think is what I think. Okay.
Like the way I came to my numbers is the way you're, and if we get the same.
Okay. Wait, we're going to talk numbers, so don't you worry. Why else? I'm curious.
Yeah, making a plan. Are we supposed to?
Making a plan?
We gotta make a plan of where we wanna be,
Sure.
what we wanna accomplish and.
And forgive me.
How to get there.
I know we've met before. I'm drawing a blank on your name.
What's that?
I'm sorry. I know we've met. I'm drawing a blank on your name.
Shirley.
Shirley.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Good to see you. Yeah, I mean, having a plan, I think is super, super important. But I do think when we're talking about today, and don't worry, we're not going to spend a ton of time on this part today, but I do want to at least touch on it at the very beginning. I think today has to be a lot more than just talking about sales and money. Now, granted, that's going to be the root of a business plan, right? I mean, you're running a for-profit business. You're running a business to make money, right? And yet it has to be about more than sales and money. In my opinion, it really has to be about purpose. Has anybody seen this quote before on the right? He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how. Seeing one nod, maybe a couple other silent nods. I don't know.
I've heard it in different ways, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's a common phrase.
Purpose.
I know it's a quote that I first read in a book called Man's Search for Meaning. It's a fantastic book by Viktor Frankl, who's a psychologist who lived through the Holocaust. And I don't want to get too deep into that book. Great book if you ever feeling the need for inspiration and learning about purpose. Great book. But the reason I want to bring that up today is there can be a lot of a grind in real estate, right? There definitely can be. whether it's picking up the phone, door knocking, hosting open houses, whatever it might be. Some days it's going to feel like a grind. When you have that purpose of backing what you're doing, something that's bigger than just money and sales, then it's going to it's not going to quite so much feel like a grind. You're going to have that why to kind of bear the how. So I just want to encourage y'all to keep that in mind today, because with the right purpose, even the things you don't want to do are going to flow effortlessly. But without purpose, the things you don't want to do, they're going to feel like a chore. So I really just want y'all to kind of be approaching it like that as not only today, but just in general, as we're talking about business. Keep going about purpose real quick. I think it's got to be something that has to be always evolving, something that goes far beyond business or a job. It's really the type of impact that you want to make on the world. I don't think it can be forced, and it can be rediscovered or found. Meaning, like there might be something from your past or from your history or whatever that you're like that you haven't addressed in a decade or more. That you're like, man, maybe that might be something that can be a driving force for you. In my opinion, this should not just be some generic business mission statement, and not trying to throw shade on mission statements. They can be great. They can get people to rally behind it. I, for instance, love the Y4C2Ts. When I saw that, when I came back to Keller on the wall, I was like, man, I missed that. I miss seeing that on the wall. I think that kind of stuff can be very powerful. But at the same time, when it comes to like a personal business, because that's what we're all running, right? If you're a business owner, you're running your business. It's got to mean more than just like, changing the world through real estate or something like that. Like it's gotta be something that actually resonates with you. And so I just want to encourage y'all to approach it that way. It should be a declaration, like a purpose, a mission. It should be a declaration of what you'll have accomplished in life when you reach the end of the line, so to speak. And it's never too late to gain clarity on this and take action. Has anybody ever thought about this subject before, just out of curiosity, your own personal mission, a purpose, anything like that? A little bit?
A lot.
Between Mary's hand?
Yeah.
A lot? Is that what, Adam, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. Is it, and by no means, don't have to share it, because I know it's a personal thing for a lot of people. If there's anything y'all want to share on it, you absolutely can. I just think it sometimes when we share, it helps others kind of start to put the pieces together for themselves. Anything y'all want to share about your own personal mission and how you apply it to
Yeah.
your business?
Many years ago, I attended a workshop, and it was a 4-day thing. And we had to declare our life's purpose. And mine came out, I'm a passionate, compassionate giver, and my purpose in life is to help others along the path. But what happened, what was so cool about it was I claimed that before I ever knew what it meant. And then I started to connect the dots and realize, as a tutor, or actually as a school teacher of struggling readers, kids who had disabilities, and kids who, were way behind academically because they were in inner city school, I realized I help kids who think they can't read learn how to read. When I got into real estate, my niche ended up being people who thought they couldn't buy homes. So I help people who think they can't buy homes, and as a coach of realtors, I help people who think they can't sell real estate. It's my LLC now and everything. So it's like I let my actual mission and vision pull me into it. So
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
I love hearing that. Thank you for sharing that, Mary. Very, very eloquent way of putting it. And your LLC, what's your LLC called?
help along the path.
Help Along the Path. I love that. And that's a really cool way of kind of seeing just trends in your life and how it can apply toward real estate. Because that's what you did, basically. That's exactly what you did. You found things that just themes, I guess you could almost call it, this throughout your life, and how it just was naturally applying itself. And I think a lot of times when we get that type of clarity on what we're doing, it can help us just kind of figure out, back to this slide, maybe help you figure out the why a little bit, help you figure out the how, then makes the how a little bit more bearable, if that makes sense, And so just wanted to share that aspect of it. In terms of why I'm here, I don't want to get too in the weeds on this, because we do have a lot to go over today in terms of business planning. For me, I started in real estate in 2013. I started with Keller out of Green Hills, which is now our Music City office, right? That's where I started 12 years ago now, which doesn't feel like 12 years ago, but time flies. And like a lot of people, I was grinding. I was working hard. I'll leave it at that, in terms of hitting the phones, talking to a lot of people, a lot of cold calling, doing my best to run a listing-based business. trying to grow like the Red Book would say, trying to grow the way that people who would be up on stage would say. That was what I was trying to emulate. And then along the way, I just started to question whether that was the right path for me. So those questions starting for me, good English for me, I guess. But those questions started for me in 2018. So I was driving back from Bold, and now this was not a drive back from Bold being held in Lebanon and me driving back home or something like that. No, I was down in Birmingham. I drove down to Birmingham, drove up in the same day to go to Bold. I did that 7 weeks. I still very much believe in Bold. I heard there's a new iteration of it. I haven't experienced the new one yet, and yet Bold was life changing for me. It definitely was. But I remember driving back in 2018, and I got a text from a friend of mine. So this friend of mine was sick. He was going through a lot of issues. He had cancer. Long story short, he needed a new liver. And so Matt sends a text to me, and he's a best friend. He was a best friend, right? And so him sent a text to me and our best friend Jeffrey, just telling us, "Hey, I finally got the call. I'm going to the hospital tonight. I'm having my operation, right?" And unfortunately, Matt didn't make it. Matt, the next morning he went under the knife, just didn't wake up. And I share that with you because I was 33 at the time. We went to high school together, and I never really realized how fragile life was at that point. And I was like, man, life is short. Life is definitely short. It's meant for more than just grinding away at work is what I'm trying to get at. Like most lessons in life, it took more than just one time of something like that happening to kind of cement that type of lesson for me. The next thing was the pandemic for me, 2020, right? In March of 2020, the world shut down for everybody. All of a sudden, life was starting to slow down a little bit. I'm like, wait a minute, this, maybe there's more than just grinding away for hitting the phones and calling people all the time. 2021, my daughter was born. Another thing that's like, hey, life's, these things that are popping up. One last thing for me that kind of changed things was in 2022, I was diagnosed with a very, very minor form of skin cancer. Good thing, everything's good with that, so nothing to worry about there. But my point is that all those things were kind of like wake-up calls for me and said, hey, life's short. Why are you grinding away, going after something, a dream that was never yours to begin with, right? A dream that maybe you started to formulate based on some things that you would hear of somebody talking on stage, but something that never necessarily resonated with your heart. And so I just wanted to share that with y'all real quick to say, hey, it's not always about just growing the biggest team or the biggest business that you can. Sometimes it's about making sure that you're figuring out ways for real estate to support your life. Does that make sense? Kind of what I'm getting at?
Yeah, it just comes to mind, life by design, not default.
Exactly. Just make sure you're designing a life that you want and not a life that you see that person over there designing and you're like, wait a minute, that sounds cool, let me do it. No, just make sure it's the life that more than just sounds cool is what I'm trying to say, That's a great role model, definitely is. And so I just wanted to share that because that's kind of taken me, before we get to the take action page, that's kind of taken me a little bit more toward my mission of living an authentic life, emulating an authentic life for my daughter to see, for other agents to see, for other people to see, helping lead and coach and train others and living that life based on purpose and passions and going after the things that I care about. So yeah, anyway, I just wanted to share all that. And I want y'all to just real quick, whenever you see a take action page, there's a few of these slides throughout the presentation where there'll just be some opportunities for you to either make some notes. You obviously can write anything down you want on here from this, I should say. But a couple of times for you to either make some notes, maybe answer some questions that might be beneficial for you as you're business planning, because it's not just going to be about like, we're not going to be done at noon today and you're going to be ready to go for the next 12 months when it comes to business planning. Like this should be the start of something for you. And so first thing, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm just curious, how much clarity do you have around your purpose? There's no right or wrong answer, and you don't even need to answer this out loud. I just want y'all to be honest with yourself in terms of that question. And I want y'all to just strive to increase that by a couple of numbers over the next 6 months. So meaning like, if you give yourself a 4, you're like, yeah, maybe I've heard a little bit about purpose and it sounds cool, but I've never really thought much about it. Well, maybe over the next 6 months, aim to make that from a 4 to a 6. Or if what I described more of a 2 out of 10, make it a 2 to a 4 over the next 6 months. Like just in terms of how clear you are and what that looks like for you. A couple ways that I think you can do this: self-reflection, following your heart, following intuition, writing out a purpose to start with, and then allowing it to evolve. Because it's definitely an evolution. It's definitely a part of growth. And so an action item that I would encourage y'all to do, and if something comes to mind right now, write it down. If not, maybe just write down the action item and think on it. And that's just write down a life's purpose or mission that goes far beyond you and your family. Let this be a starting point and let it evolve over time. And side note, do you all know why I say it goes far beyond you and your family? Because I think that purpose, mission, and all that needs to go larger than just your immediate circle. You know, what kind of impact are you making? Like Mary gave an awesome purpose and mission in terms of making an impact on other people. When we start having that impact on others, that's when it really starts to I don't know, really starts to cement and take hold for us, I think, you know. Anyway, just wanted to share all that. Don't worry, we're gonna get past all the gooey self-reflection stuff here and get into a little bit more of the nuts and bolts. I just like to start with that aspect of it because I do believe that that's where it's got to begin. You got to have some sort of purpose or mission that's driving. So next thing, so where to? You all have seen this quote before by Bill Gates. He said, most people overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year and underestimate what they can achieve in 5 years. I think this is so true when it comes to real estate. Now, this isn't about limitations. Like, I'm not trying to say to, like, especially when we're talking about overestimating what can be done in 1 year or anything, I'm not trying to say to put limitations on yourself. It's just about balance. It's about patience in writing a long-term plan. Because in my opinion, a business plan for next year, it should just be a stepping stone to what you want to accomplish long-term. You know, so with whatever you want to accomplish in 12 months is fantastic. And yet that should lead you to what you want to do 2 years from now and 5 years from now and 10 years from now. And so just let it evolve. Let it all be just like I said, a stepping stone here. Now, we all get 168 hours in a week. How are you going to use it? And I've seen a couple chuckles. Why y'all chuckling at that?
It's just always so crazy to see it, you know, like
Sure.
168 hours. It seems like a lot,
Uh-huh.
but then like time flies all the time.
It does fly, absolutely.
See, and I look at 168 and I think, oh my God, it's just not enough. It's
Just not enough?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it renews every 7 days, right?
Well, I think when you're 60, it feels like not enough.
I can understand that.
Like it just
Yeah.
goes so fast. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel like 168 hours. Yeah.
Well, I get that. I definitely get that. And I think this is important to bring up because you got to remember that as we're planning for business, that life is all about trade-offs, right? It's all about like nobody can have everything. It's just the reality of it, right? I'm going to pick on, I won't name names right now, of course, but I'm going to pick on somebody I met at my old company. And so so for those that don't know my story, I started with Keller 12 years ago for about 6 months. I've been with Keller my whole career aside from 6 months. And for those 6 months, I went elsewhere to be a managing broker. And I came back. I honestly miss the environment here. I think it's awesome. I love the education aspect of our company. And so when I was elsewhere, when I became a managing broker, I'm like, well, let me call every agent in our office, introduce myself. So I did. I'm going down the list, and there was one agent that I'd seen his name before. I can't remember if I'd worked with him in the past. I couldn't deal with him or not, but I knew he was a big shot kind of agent, so to speak. So I called the guy, and we had a good conversation. We chatted for about 30 minutes, and he was telling me that he had actually moved to Florida. He still had his Tennessee license hanging out our office, but he actually moved to Florida. And so as we started to get deeper, he was telling me how he had been the number one agent in the state for that company for a few years, and this was like 5-10 years ago. But he had moved to Florida because he had to follow his ex-wife down there so he could be close to his kids. And I'm starting and just hearing him talk about his relationship with his ex-wife and all that, I could see how that relationship had degraded. I'll just leave it at that. And I guess what I'm trying to say is sometimes we all get that 168. And sometimes we can make trade-offs and say, well, I'm going to grind away and be the number one agent in the state. And that can sometimes sacrifice other things that matter to us, right? Like relationships, right? Like a purpose, anything along those lines. So again, I use the words on the last slide, patience and balance, right? When talking about having a plan that's going to be a stair step, or it's going to be a step to the next year's plan and 5 years from now's plan. Think about this as we're going through today. That you don't want to trade off and grind too far to where you lose what other things matter to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So keep going here. You can definitely take your real estate business anywhere you want to go. If it's your first year, year two, set no limits. If you've been doing this for a while and you want to make some changes, you've got to be patient with yourself. Because remember, especially if you've been doing this for a few years, you've got some habits that are kind of ingrained in you already, right? Things that you're used to doing for the last 3, 5, 10 years. And completely changing that overnight would be a challenge. And so just keep that in mind as you're going about it. Just so I have an idea, experience in the room, since it's only 5, 6, including Mary, how long y'all been in the business?
6 years,
6 years?
3 full-time.
3 full time, okay.
39.
39,
As long as I've been alive. 15.
15. Why do you say how long have you been alive?
Because I'm 39, so it's really has been alive.
Gotcha.
Every year as long as I've been alive.
I'm sorry, it wasn't clicking. I was like, are you somebody's daughter and you've been like you there? Okay, so
We've known each other a long time, ever since I started, and we used to door knock together, like at the very beginning
Yeah.
of my career. Yeah, we did.
that's so
You
awesome.
might need to start again.
And I'm sorry, so you said 15, right? 15?
Yeah, 15.
Okay, cool.
I have 15 weeks.
15 weeks. Thank you for being here. That's awesome. That's awesome.
I've got 39 weeks, yeah.
I promise you, most agents that are 15 weeks in are not going to do the stuff that you're doing today to plan for next year. So good for you, Steve, for doing that. How long?
8 years.
8 years. That's awesome. Okay, so we've got quite a few veterans in the room. Somebody, Brandon, I know Adam's been in here for a minute, in real estate for a minute. So I don't know, a little while. And so that's what all I'm trying to say is, if it's your first year, don't set limits. You know, if you want to sell however many homes next year, like that can be your number. We're going to work that out here as we go. Don't set a limit on yourself with it. And I'm not saying to limit yourself if you've been doing this for a while either, but just know if you sold 3 homes this year and you've been doing it for, a decade or however long, it might be hard to then say, all right, well, next year I'm going to sell 30. Because there's going to be some changes and challenges that go into that type of growth. So just saying, be patient with yourself if that's the case. So remove your limiting beliefs. Got my office gifts in here just because I let them try to make it fun as much as I can, because I know what we're talking about business plan, and I can be very straight and to the point. So like, just want to make sure that
That's an awesome show.
it is. You know what?
One of the best ever.
I used to be able to give you like any line from that, and it's been. And now that we've got a 4-year-old at home, it's like I can give you any line from Bluey. I don't know about from the office anymore, but I'm just saying, just bring this up, because whatever you're going for next year, believe in that. Just don't remove any of those limiting beliefs that you might have that you're like, if you, and it could be doubling your business, it could be selling 20 homes next year, it could be selling 200 homes next year. If that's what's gonna resonate with you in your heart and the numbers are gonna work out, then believe in it. Definitely believe in it. It could be working half the time that you worked last year, but selling the same amount of homes. Believe in that too. There's nothing wrong with any of that. But just remove those limiting beliefs that might be popping up. Anything that's like, hey, I can't do this, or I'm not good at this. You've got to recognize it, and then you've got to change it. That's the most important thing about removing the limiting beliefs. But let's keep going here. So thinking ahead, how will your business financially support your life? I want y'all to really write these answers down, or at least write the first things that come to mind. Yes.
Just about the last slide, like, how do you recommend doing that? Removing the limiting beliefs? Is that like an affirmations type thing that you would recommend, or?
I think affirmations are a big part of it. I think the first step is recognition, and that's the hardest part. So if it could be whatever you want. Somebody give me a limiting belief. It can be something you have, it could be something you've heard somebody say.
I can't make it. I can't do that much.
I'll never sell a house again.
Sell a house again. Well, the first thing in that is recognizing, hey, I just said that, and
Yeah.
I'm speaking that into existence, right?
Yeah.
Because anybody who says something like that absolutely is.
Yeah.
I'll give you another a good example, something like that might be a little more hidden, and it could be in real estate, it could be out elsewhere. Somebody who says that they can't, they have health issues. I'll try to think of the best way to put it. Somebody who's might say that they're not healthy. They can't do this. They can't go for a run because they can't do it. They're not healthy. First thing they got to do is recognize, hey, I'm saying this. This is what I believe. Because you can always take steps with that, right? So say somebody can't run. I'm thinking, actually, I'll just be honest. I'm thinking of my mom right now. My mom has back issues, hip issues, to where at this point she walks with a walker all the time, right? And she's 70, and I'm like, man, I don't want to be 70 walking with a walker. I want to be 70 and spry and jumping around and all that. And so, but the first thing is, if I ever bring anything up to her that's physical, I can't do that. I can't do that, right? You want to go to the hockey game? I'd love to, but I can't do that. I can't go do that, right? And that yes, you can, absolutely. But she doesn't recognize that that's a limiting belief that she holds.
Right.
So the first step is recognition. Because once somebody recognizes, hey, I'm saying this to myself, Then the light switch can be flipped and say, I'm no longer going to say it. I'm going to start saying, hey, I am healthy. I can do this. And then it might be taking steps to, walk to the mailbox without a walker and bag, or you know what I'm trying to say. And so it's baby steps. So the first step is recognition,
Yeah.
and the second step is affirmations and action.
Okay.
Like, words are so powerful, so we have to be careful of what we say.
Absolutely.
Or think.
Very, very powerful.
And
Yeah.
think, yeah. Well, I guess what we think, that's just what we're saying internally. That's all it is,
Can I add something too, Rob?
Yeah, of course.
So one of the things I run into with people is when they, like, affirmations feel phony to them.
Mhm.
One way that you can bridge that gap if you can't get behind what you're saying. So like, say for example, I said, I want to make, $500,000 this year. And okay, so walk around saying I'm a $500,000 agent. That doesn't feel right.
Sure.
Express it as a gratitude instead.
Okay. Oh, I love
I'm
that.
so
Yeah.
grateful for the ability for me to grow my business to
Yeah.
$500,000 this year.
Yeah.
So that's helped a lot of people I've worked with to get behind those affirmations in the beginning.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And expressing gratitude to kind of get you where you want to be with it. There is, I love that. I don't want to get too off on affirmations, but affirmations can be fantastic. I'm gonna throw y'all on the spot. What's y'all know Muhammad Ali, obviously, right? What's his most famous affirmation?
I'm the
I'm
greatest
the
in the world.
I'm the greatest in the world. And he has a quote out there, man. I'm gonna butcher it because I wasn't ready to talk about it right now. But he has a quote out there that says it's something along the lines of that affirmations, basically are words, but once they become a deep-seated conviction, that's when the magic starts to happen. So like when he starts repeating it, and once started repeating, hey, I'm the greatest of all time. And once he started saying that enough, that's when he became the greatest of all time, right? Because it became that deep-seated conviction. So sometimes I would add to what Mary had said about the gratitude aspect. Sometimes it does just take repetition. Keep going until where you can believe it then. Anyway, back to what we were talking about here. In terms of how your business is going to financially support your life, just think about what that means. And now, I know we haven't talked about specific numbers yet. What I'm getting at with that is your business supporting your family? Is it supporting some endeavor you're going after? Are you trying to buy rental properties with the profits that you're making? Is it are you supporting a dream that you or your family members have? Are you sending your kids to college? Whatever the case might be, write down what that might look like. And then get clarity right here with that second question. How much money do you need to receive from your business? Now, I'm very purposeful in terms of how I wrote that. How much money do you need to receive from your business? Because I think that's an important way to look at how our businesses are supporting us. How is your business going to support you there? How much money do you need to receive from your business? That's very different than how much GCI are you going to make? How many homes are you going to sell? Because I could care less how many homes you sell or what your GCI is. This is what should matter to you. How much money you're going to take home. What are you actually going to receive from your business? And when you reach the end of 2026, how are you going to know if it's been a successful year? Any thoughts on that? And that could be real estate, and that can absolutely be not related to real estate. How would you know it's been a successful year?
I think if I'm financially secure, I'm not stressed all the time about money and,
Okay.
can go out and go on vacation with my kids and my husband and,
Sure.
not stressed all the time, which is what I've been this year. So,
Well, it's understandable. I think it's been a stressful year for a lot of people
Yeah.
in the business over, probably less stressful last couple of years for a lot of people in the business. So I definitely get where you're coming from.
mhm.
Aside from that, what else? What else would make it successful?
Healthy,
Being healthy at the end of next year, okay.
being able to spend that money that you just made.
Being able to spend it.
Right.
How would you spend it? Just out of curiosity, how would y'all spend it?
The kids, the family, vacations and just, living the life you want, you decide.
How would you invest it?
How could you invest it? Yeah, that's another great way to look at it. No wrong answers, by the way. I'm just curious. I'm just throwing this out there to y'all because I think that can start to get us to think about this answer and can really get us to get clear in all three of these because all three of these are saying very similar things. But you got to know how much money you need to receive from your business as we move forward. So does everybody have some sort of number for number two? What you're aiming for in terms of profit next year? Seeing a couple nods, couple yeses. Okay, I'm gonna trust everybody does. Real quick, since we mentioned success on the last slide, I wanted to just throw this quote out from my book. Success in real estate is living the life you want to live while real estate helps support that life. I wrote that because I remember thinking about how I would see these people up on stage and they'd be talking about, selling 150 homes or whatever, just throw out a number. And I used to have a real cloudy view of what success was in real estate. And that might have been success for them, or they could have been like the guy from that elsewhere company that I just mentioned who, chased that success and then lost success elsewhere in his life. At the same time, like I think this kind of gives me that clarity to say real estate is going to be that thing that helps support my life, and success in real estate is living the life I want to live while real estate does that. And so like for me, it's working more traditional business hours. Like you won't catch me working on a weekend, maybe rarely on a Saturday morning, very rarely. I'm not working at night. That's just not what I do, and that's, that's not the life I want to live. And so like to me, success in real estate is living that life you want and letting real estate just support you. So let's jump into the numbers. Let's get clarity on all this. So the financial system, it's the core understanding of your business's financial health. Understand how to forecast your income, profit, and expenses in combination with your business plan. And let's run lean to make your business recession proof. Do y'all think we're going through a recession in the real estate industry, or we have been going through it?
I think we've broken.
We've broken through it.
I think we're about to break through it, but yes, I feel like we have. I know my business has, and from the last slide, how do I know that 2026 was a successful year for me at the end of it? Would be that I would be able to see the fruits of my labor, because that's kind of a frustrating thing for me is I put in work, and I don't see the fruits of that.
Sure.
So it gets frustrating. You get, off track, and it's hard to get back on track
Absolutely.
a lot of times when you feel that way.
That's normal. And I think especially over the last couple of years, that's normal. Because I agree with y'all, honestly. I do think we're kind of coming out of that recession a little bit. I hope we are anyway. And yet I don't think we talk enough about that. We try to put a rose-colored glasses on everything and say how great the market is, or we try to find some success story. I remember I sat through. Do y'all know who Brian Buffini is, the real estate coach? I sat through one of his trainings a few months ago, and he was talking about how the market's not bad. It's just some agents say it's bad, and I was just thinking, man, what are you talking about? Like you look at NAR trends, like it's not. I know the market we saw in say early 2020, what was it, 2021, 2022, when rates right before rates started to go up, 2022. I know that was an unrealistic market, but man, like go back. We're not in 2019. We're not in 2020. Like this is. Anyway, I don't mean to get at all sidetracked with it. I'm just trying to say that running lean, I think, is a very important part of this, and we'll touch on that as we keep going here, as we keep talking about finances. I think running lean, what that means is not having a business with bloated expenses, not throwing money out the door, just try to hopefully get more money coming in. Anybody read this book, Profit First? Man, I would put this on every.
Yeah.
I got one nod
Yeah.
also. I love it. And I don't mean to ignore Mary and Adam over on that side. So if y'all were nodding and I missed it, my apologies. I get keyboard anyway. I'm just looking at this way, so my apologies. But if y'all haven't read it, man, I recommend that you check it out. I just wanted to throw this quote out there that you need to fix profit first and then grow, because there's going to be a couple principles actually from this book that we're going to talk about as on the next slide as we're looking here. Shift your thinking to the profit first method. So what Mike, the author, really talks about is that most businesses operate by inverting these two words right here, profit and expenses. Most businesses operate by saying, hey, whatever money I make, I'm going to subtract my expenses, and what's left over is my profit, right? And that's kind of sound logic in a way, but it's not a smart way to run your business. And instead, we should be looking at it and saying, all right, well, how much money is going to come in? I got to subtract the money I intend to make. So go back a few slides. The money you intend to make in 2026, you subtract that, and what's left is your expenses. So instead of profit being what's left, it's an essential part of this formula then. And so how much profit will you make in 2026? Again, we kind of answered that a couple slides ago, but it's just a reminder that if you don't have that, write that number down. We're going to need that through the next calculations. So let's work backwards now and figure out what your GCI needs to be. For working off that profit goal that you have. So you plug in your profit goal and estimate your 2026 expenses. Now, I say estimate, if you've been doing this for a minute, and I know Steven, right? Or Steve?
Steven,
All right. So I know Steven, 15 weeks in the business. So you might not have a clear picture of what your expenses will be for 2026. Everybody else has. You've been in the business for a minute. So you can look back at 2025 and say, this is what I've spent this year. And you can hopefully then look at it and say, all right, well, are there any changes going from 2025 to 2026? Were you spending money on something in 2025 that you're not going to spend money on next year? Are you adding something, a lead generation lever to your business? You got to estimate your expenses though, because when you have that profit goal, you know what you're going to be spending on expenses. That tells you how much money you need to actually make from GCI. I guess we got R2D2 in the room. No, it's all good. But
So,
yeah, go ahead.
no, I'm sorry, how do you figure out the profit goal?
The profit, that's your goal.
Uh-uh.
That's your goal. That's so like what so back a few slides here, right? This one right here. How much money do you need to receive from your business next year? That's your goal. You decide. You decide what that number looks like. That's how we got a business plan. That's how we got to start.
That's our life by design.
That's our life by design, exactly.
Well, I mean, the 411 tells you the GCI,
Mhm.
that's, it shows over and above and then the expenses, so that's.
So-
how
It's flipping it on its head because this way you can design what you're looking to get out of your business instead of being left with what's left over at that point, because by just sitting there looking and saying, all right, well, I'm gonna bring in 100,000 in GCI, that sounds great, but at the same time, is that the money you need for your life? That's up to you, I mean, that's your life, is that the money you need to go on the vacations that you mentioned? Is that the money you need for your family? If it's not, then figure out what this number needs to be, because this is your GCI, what we're gonna get to, this bottom one. So you have that profit goal, you add what you're planning to spend for your expenses,
Okay.
you've got your income
I
goal.
got
You got them? All right, cool. Include in your expense line, by the way, and we're gonna separate it on the next slide, but include in your expense line what your company, what our Keller commission split is, right? So if you're a capper, what's it, 18,000 a year at our office? 15 plus 3. So include that in there. So that way, if you're saying, all right, well, I'm gonna make 100K next year in profit, and I like easy round numbers, and just say you spend an average of $1,000 a month in your business, right? And you might spend more, you might spend less, but just say it's an average of 1,000. You took Bold this year, you have your MLS dues, you had to buy some signs, you got some lock boxes, photography, maybe do some advertising. You spend an average of $1,000 a month. That's 12 grand. You have your cap, right? That's 18. So that's 30. Add those two numbers together. You got 100 plus 30. You got 130 what you need for GCI. You all follow me? I'm just making sure. Okay.
Yeah.
If not, speak now. Interrupt me. Like tell me so that way we can slow down because all this stuff. All these next few slides are going to build on each other. So again, you can use your previous year's expenses as a starting point, and adjust for forecasting for a different sales volume. Meaning, like, just say you were a buyer's agent on a team, and now you're going off on your own. Well, maybe 90% of the deals you closed last year, or this year, I guess we should say, were buy sides. And next year you want to sell some listings. Well, you might have to pay for a photographer to go out to your listings. You're gonna need to pay for signs, lock boxes, things that you might not have had as expenses. So just adjust your forecasting depending on what you're planning for. Recognize the difference between a fixed repeating expense and a cost of sale. So that's that fixed expense. That's that expense line that you read in the red book, right? Those are things that you're gonna have to count on to pay regardless if you sell 0 homes or 1,000 homes next year. So if you're paying for a CRM, which why would you, by the way, because Command is awesome. But if you're paying for advertising costs, your cell phone, your NAR dues, MLS, signs, office dues, anything else that's like every month you can count on this coming out of your account. Like just make sure you have that forecasted here as a fixed expense. Your cost of sale is going to be just a little bit different. That's something you only pay when you sell something, like your office split, if you have a referral fee that you're paying to somebody, contract to close work. I'll give you an example of how this gets wonky when you're trying to figure out this part of it, the profit plus expenses equals income. I knew an agent that she, like 90% of her deals came from agent to agent referrals. Like she was just a networker. She'd go to all these conferences. She'd always be bragging. I'd go to this conference. I'm gonna get 3 deals out of it. Like, and then sure enough, she would say she would. I don't know. I never checked behind her, but we'll say she did. What I'm getting at here is if she brought in a $500,000 sale, and just say for easy math, it was a $15,000 commission she was bringing in. it's not really 15 for her, because if she's paying a 25% referral fee, it's really, well, whatever that math would be, 12 grand, 11 something, you know? And so just keep that in mind if your business is built on stuff like that. You know, you just have to, you gotta put some real thought into where your business is coming from. But now that we know how much, and everybody has this number, right? See a couple nods, maybe, yes? Oh, all right, please hang with me. But now we know your GCI that you're gonna need to earn in 2026. We're gonna answer the following, and not on this slide, I got a formula for you. So you're gonna know how many homes you need to sell, how many listings you need to take, how many buyers you need to pend, how many appointments you need to go on. The answer is gonna be quite simple. And it's not as complicated as Sheldon makes it, you know? And hopefully y'all will not be giving me the penny look at the end of the figure at the end of the slide. So anyway, next question we got to answer. What's your average GCI? So if you're brand new, Stephen, you might not have a number. Maybe Mary can give you a number from the office that we can plug in. But hopefully everybody else, you've been in business for at least a few years, you've got a number that you can say, hey, my average sale, I bring in X amount of dollars. So you write that number down. And we're going to divide that GCI goal that you have by your average GCI to get your total number of homes. So if you're and I just got hypothetical numbers thrown up here on the board just so y'all can track with me. Say you had a GCI goal of 150, right? If your average GCI is $11,000, you're gonna need to sell 14 homes next year. Now, if you do the math, it's actually like 13 point something, like 13.7 when you divide 150 by 11. But you got to round up because you can't sell 0.7 of a home, right? And so if you can, I don't know, maybe you're selling somebody just the upstairs and the basement, I don't know. But you know, you can, so you have to round up. That's going to be a theme, by the way, generally speaking, as we're talking today. Round up with your formulas. So if you run into a situation like that, so that way you're not caught at the end of the year saying, oh, well, I had a goal of hitting 150 to support my life from a GCI standpoint, but you know, I only hit 140, which maybe that sounds good to you. That's up to y'all. But the way I look at it is, if that's my goal, that's what I'm aiming for. You know, I'm not saying 150 is my goal, so I can maybe get to 100. No, like, if that's my goal, that's what I'm striving for. And I would encourage everybody to look at things that way too. So the next question that you're gonna have to answer here, and answer this on your own, what's your ratio of listings sold to buyers sold? Now, there's no like generic formula for our business. You could be 50-50, you could be 60-40 one way or the other. Maybe you're super buyer heavy, maybe you never want to sell a buyer and you refer all that out, like that's your business. But know what that number looks like for you, or what you want it to look like going into next year. I will ask Mary this question, and I don't want to put you on the spot for the office. Do we have like a ratio for our office, like listings sold to buyers or anything like that?
No, we don't have one for the office that I'm aware of. We could probably calculate it fairly easily.
If you had to guess, what would it be though? Like, is it like 1-to-1? Is it?
Well, what we teach when I sit down and do goal setting sessions
Sure.
with people, we teach that you should attract a buyer for every listing. It used to be 2-to-1.
Sure.
Now it's closer to 1-to-1.
But do you see just from your coaching clients, maybe it is like close to that? Or
It's a lot heavier when people are new to coaching. It's a lot heavier on the buyer
buy
side.
side?
And then the longer they're in the
Okay.
business, it tends to start to lean more to the listing side.
Cool. So yeah, so just bring that up. So that way, if you have a goal of however many listings, and thank you, Mary, for the info. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, you're fine.
So if you have a goal of however many homes and you are brand new in the business, maybe you are saying, hey, it's going to be 2-to-1 buyers to listings, even if I want it to be differently. If you've been in the business for a minute, hopefully you can look back on it and say, all right, well, the last 3 years, I sold 30 listings and 10 buyers. So my ratio should be 3-to-1 listings to buyers. You know, it's up to y'all in terms of how you're looking at it. But it's gonna funnel down just like this. If you know how many homes you need to sell based on the previous slide, you know, based on this slide, we're gonna break it down. Listings sold and buyers sold. And so just ratio examples. You could have, if you had 14 homes like we had on our example, 50-50 would be 7 and 7, obviously. 75 would be 11 and 3. And if you notice, 75% of 14 isn't 11. It's like 10 point something. Again, we're rounding up. I like to round up on the listing side more than anything, just because that, to me, it working out that way a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, so I would plug in your ratio. And again, if you don't know your ratio, you could work off half and half. It's just, I like having this type of clarity in my business. So that way I can say, all right, if I need to sell 11 listings and only 3 buyers next year, I know where I need to put my focus. You know what I need to look at. Just clicking for y'all. Making sense?
Yeah.
So now we just need to know, hey, how many, if we, that's how many we need to. That's how many we actually need to sell, right? How many listings we need to sell, how many buyers we need to sell. Next thing we need to know is how many clients do we actually need to sign? What percentage of our listings and our buyers actually close? We're gonna figure that out here as we go. So you hopefully have these two numbers from our last slide, right? The amount of listings sold and the amount of buyers that you're gonna sell. Well, that's gonna funnel down to how many listings do you need to take? How many buyers do you need to sign? So take the number of listings and buyers that you're gonna sell and divide that number by your conversion percentage. I'm gonna show you on the next slide. So I know it sounds funny, but divide it by your conversion percentage to determine how many listings and buyers you need to sign in 2026. So for listings, just to give you all an example, and just breaking the math down with you. If you've got that goal to sell 11 listings and you sell, say, 75% of the listings that you take, excuse me. So you would take 11, you would divide it by 0.75, that's the 75%. And that's gonna equal, for this example, 14.667, always round up. That would mean you need to take 15 listings next year in order to sell 11. Does that make sense? I know it's kind of funny math when you're talking about dividing by decimals and all that. But that's gonna allow you to get a firm number for how many listings you need to actually, how many listings you actually need to sign next year. How many times you need to sit at a table with a client and get their signature on a piece of paper. That tells you how many times, because you've got your ratios, you've got everything that you're backing into to get to that number, by the way, that we were talking about at the beginning, the number that's gonna fund your life, the number that makes it all, the whole reason for doing all this stuff, right? So that gives you your target. You need to take 15 listings. On the buy side, just to give you all another example, you have, say you had that goal to sell 3 buyers in 2026. Well, sell 60%. Say you sell 60% of the buyers that you signed, same thing, 3 divided by 0.6. So the 0.6 is coming from the 60%. That's gonna equal 5. We round up if there was a decimal. So if it was, if it was 5.2, you'd round up to 6, but if it's not 5.2, it's 5. So you need to sign 5 buyers in 2026 to hit these numbers. This gives you clear targets in terms of what you need to actually accomplish next year as you're moving forward. Everything making sense? All right, cool. I know numbers can lose people, so if you're getting lost, raise your hand. Like I will go back however far we need to. I want to make sure if you're here and you're giving me your time that you're getting something out of it. You're an explorer here, These numbers, could be something different, by the way, for you. How many buyers you actually sign that will close. Some people will sell, 75% of their listings. Some people, I think in this market might be even lower than that if they're struggling with pricing, if they're struggling with price reductions. And that's gonna be your business. It's gonna be how well you're having those conversations with your clients, how well you're setting up price reductions as you go. So just keep that in mind. If you've been in the business for a minute, I would encourage everybody to look back at your past history. I believe in our system, in the KW system, you can see, all right, well, if you took, say you took 20 listings over the last year and you sold 15 of them, well, you sold 75% of your listings. You can go back and actually find that number. I would encourage y'all to know what your real number is and not just throw something out there. If you're not sure what to put in there, you can always talk to me after class, or you can ask Mary, of course, as well. I'm sure she'd be happy to kind of give you an idea of what could work for you. And same with buyers. If anything with buyers, I would almost underestimate, because sometimes with buyers, because it doesn't get tracked as well as listings, I don't think, right? Like we might sign a buyer and nothing ever happens with them, and they just kind of drop off the face of the earth. They ghost us, whatever you want to call it. That we might forget about it. That's why I say maybe plug in a 60% number on there. So that way, unless you've tracked your number, like almost forecast lower, so that way you're building in a little bit of a buffer. All right, so we figured out how many we're gonna sell, how many we need to take. Next is appointments. How many appointments will you go on in order to sign how many clients you just said you're gonna sign? Well, it's gonna keep funneling down, right? It's nothing earth shattering. We got our total, we got our split in half total sold, then we got our split in half total of listings taken and buyer signed. Now we're going to appointments. How many listing appointments? How many buyer appointments are you gonna leave? Same thing, taking the total number that we had in terms of listing the buyer sign, and we divide that number by our conversion percentage to determine our amount of appointments. So working off the exact same numbers that we've been doing, again, we're funneling down just for our hypothetical agent here. If you have a goal to sign 15 listings in 2026, and you know you signed 60 appointments, 60%, excuse me, of the appointments you go on, same thing. 15 listings signed divided by the 0.6, you have 25 appointments, meaning you need to go on basically 2 appointments a month, you know, in order to sign 15 listings next year. Does that sound doable? 2 appointments a month? I would say so. I would also say that unless you know your numbers, be conservative with this, almost be lower on your conversion percentage. I'm thinking of an agent that I met this year who had been in business or has been in business almost the exact same length of time as I have. She had gotten licensed like a little bit before me in 2013. And she was telling me that in her whole career, there's only one listing appointment she didn't get. And I was like, you're full of something right now. Because like there's no way, like because she doesn't find them out of business. Like it's not like she just sells one home a year. If you sold one home a year, maybe you do take every listing appointment you go on. You don't have enough of a sample size. But like, you know, she had no handle on this number is what I'm trying to get. I want to encourage y'all to either have, if you know your number, like if you can go back over your Google Calendar over the last year and say, hey, I went on 25 appointments over the last year and I took 15 listings, you know, that's your conversion percentage. If you don't know, you know, work off the best guess and then maybe be a little more conservative. So if you think maybe you went on, maybe you took 3/4 of the appointments that you went on, you know, maybe that's what you're guessing. Go down a little bit. Maybe instead of 3/4, maybe go 2/3 or something like that. See what I'm trying to say?
Recommended rates in command that we can use.
There you go. So especially new in the business, you can do that, you know?
And I had to laugh at your story because I did have 100% conversion rate with buyers in the first few years. And when I was bragging to my coach about it, she said, well, then you're not talking to enough people.
You're not exactly. I didn't say that to this person I'm thinking of right now, but I thought the same thing.
And
I
I
was
did
like,
have a great conversion rate. I just wasn't taking any chances.
sure. And I bet you the more you've gotten out and the more you've done, the lower that conversion rate's gone, just naturally, just because you take more
Because I'm
chances.
talking to more people.
Talking to more
exactly.
people,
And that
exactly.
feels good.
Well, yeah, well, and you grow from it, honestly, too. Like this number, especially on the listing side, is going to be wildly different for somebody who say is going on a bunch of FSBO appointments and somebody who's going on appointments with their sphere. If you're only talking to people that you know, and they're basically all, hey, come out and list me, you know, well, this number's probably going to be pretty high. If you're taking chances and going out there after a for sale by owner, this number's going to be a lot lower because you're trying, you're seeing what's out there. Even if this is just your sphere of influence, though, it's never going to be 100%. You know, even because like I'm thinking of one I went on earlier this year, sphere of influence. I looked at it as a listing appointment. She didn't list. She didn't list with me, but she listed with anybody. Like she wanted market data, and she's going through some life changes. You know, she wanted to know what her home was worth. She wants to move, but she's not in the spot to move, and it's like, you know, financially. So she didn't sell. So this is never going to be 100%. You definitely can use command. There's ratios in the red book as well. But again, if you can get your own unique data and plug it in, that's when it's going to be most successful. You can say, all right, I personally have gone on and I personally have taken 2/3 of the appointments that I've gone on. Well, then, you know, that's going to be more powerful than just guessing. Do the same thing for buyers. I don't need to, you know, go through this whole thing, but yeah, just again, take whatever your goal is to sign, divide it by the percentages, and you're going to get your number. And again, always round up. But now that we know what we need to complete, right? So hopefully everybody's got that. We know what we need to do next year. We know we need to go on this many appointments in 2026. Well, how are you going to do it? Because that's ultimately what a business plan is supposed to be. Like, again, we've talked all theory and we've talked about like general numbers so far, but now we got to connect the dots. You know how many homes you need to sell in order to hit your income goal, how many clients you need to sign, how many appointments you need to go on. Knowledge and clarity are great, but a plan must become actionable or else it's just a wish. And so to make it actionable, let's build out a GPS for your business. Anybody not know what a GPS is in here? I'm guessing everybody knows. No hands, so I'm going to assume yes. Okay. Well, we're going to run through it anyway. GPS stands for goal priorities and strategies. Take your one focus for the year, your goal, and pour into that goal through 3 to 4 priorities, and each priority should be supported by about 4 to 6 strategies. Now, I've got an example GPS for this hypothetical agent that we've been running through today on the next few slides. So feel free to borrow anything from these slides, put it in yours as you go. But your 2026 goal, in my opinion, for a business plan, a real estate business plan, should be something along the lines of to achieve a profit of blank, whatever that profit goal is that you have set out. And that's the number that you choose. Again, that's if it's $100,000, $500,000, whatever, it's your life. So you achieve your profit goal of blank by the end of 2026 through selling blank amount of homes, including blank listings and blank buyers. So to me, that's your goal. Fill in those blanks, with everything that we just came up with. Because that's going to direct how everything else goes. Again, feel free to copy that, verbatim, take a picture. I am going to post the video of this whenever you get access to it. So I'll share it. So again, if you miss anything, feel free to, if somebody be back outside, what's going on? Man, it's like they're.
They knew you were here.
I guess so. It's like they're cutting down a forest back there or something. It's all good. So but your priorities and strategies. Now the priorities and strategies, again, they support the goal. A priority has to be specific enough to spark direct action while also all encompassing enough to support ideation. Meaning it should be specific. It shouldn't just be like, hey, I'm gonna generate some leads. But it shouldn't be the actual actions that you're taking. Those are gonna be your strategy. Now, the first one, I've always heard that your first priority should be strong enough that if nothing else gets accomplished other than priority one, and of course it's strategies that are nested underneath it, then you're gonna hit your goal. Think of priorities as the theme, like what's going to happen, and the strategies of how that's going to happen. Strategies, I think, must be measurable. And let's walk through an example. So I've got a theme for this GPS here, and that's just some leads, listings, and leverage, right? I'm sure hopefully we've all heard the 3 L's before. And so each one of those is going to be a priority. For priority one is to generate enough leads to support going on 32 appointments in 2026. That 32 was based on the 2 numbers we had before, 25 listing appointments, 7 buyer appointments, right? I just added the 2 together. You can phrase that however you want to. But again, it's specific, right? Like we've got actual action. I mean, we've got something that we're striving for right there, but it's not the action plan. It's not the complete action plan built into a priority. This is your action plan. All these little bullet points are your strategies. And so example strategies could be executing a database touch campaign that consists of 36 emails, quarterly calls and texts, and quarterly events. Do you think, honestly, that alone might generate 32 appointments if you have a solid and strong database. A couple ideas that I threw on here. You could institute what I call pipeline Wednesdays to ensure everyone in my pipeline is at least hearing from me once per week. So it's saying, hey, every Wednesday I'm going to touch my pipeline, everybody in there, and whether it's a call, text, or email, they're getting something personal from them. You could build and execute a FSBO pipeline in a system that so that all new FSBOs are called, nurtured, and converted. You could utilize LinkedIn and generate referral business. And you could do that again to get specific, because if all we did was stop right there and say utilize LinkedIn to generate referral business, it's not specific enough for you to take action on, right? But you could say, hey, I'm going to spend 1 hour per week starting private message conversations with agent partners from around the country. Like that does start to become specific. It gives you something to plug into your calendar and say, all right, every Thursday from 11 to 12, I'm going to say, I'm going to go on LinkedIn and start messaging people to build these relationships. You can also private message all Facebook friends who are not in the database and reconnect with them and with the end goal of adding them to the database. If you did that, and again, what we talked about early on in the class, we said how next year's business plan should build on it. We should be able to build on it for the following year and the following year, right? So you can create whatever you want to create. Well, if you did this, wouldn't that ultimately make this stronger? Especially then going in from 2026 into 2027, then this is going to be even more. You see what I'm trying to get at, right? You're going to have even better performance because it's just gonna feed itself. Does that make sense? Is this clicking? For a second priority. So again, first one was all about lead generating. So again, that's what if you're generating leads, you're going on the appointments, you're signing the appointments that we talked about, you're taking the business, you're closing the business. But for listings, a priority could be to fine tune my listing system to ensure that at least 75% of my listings sell, and I convert at least 60% of my listing appointments. Again, we're getting specific. We're saying specifically that our end goal for listings is that at least 70% of my listings are gonna be sold. That I'm gonna take, that sign is gonna have a sold sign on it too. And then I'm gonna convert at least 60% of the appointments I go on. We're getting specific about our numbers. Here's our strategies, on how we're gonna make that happen. That could be to script practice daily with a different partner every weekday, working on prospecting, appointments, and price reduction scripts. Is anybody practicing price reduction scripts?
We actually, we did in Activate, we did a price reduction script a little while back.
I love it.
We talked about, would you be interested in a list of homes that are a bargain? And then they were basically all with price reductions.
So what about for your sellers though? So like, so you know what I mean? So that way you're talking with your seller client and they're a month in and they're like, Mary, you said
We
this
talk
home.
about that a lot.
She said, well, yeah, I'm sure you talk about it from a specific example standpoint. All I'm trying to get at here is I think those are powerful conversations to role play. But if you've got a script practice partner every day, or I used to go through and literally every day from 8:30 to 9 o'clock, I had a different partner every day of the week. And so I had 5 for every, throughout the week. You know what I'm saying? And just we call and we say, all right, what do we want to work on today? I'd say, hey, I want to work on a price reduction script. I want to role play that price reduction appointment that I'm going to have with the seller today, or this price reduction conversation I'm going to have with the seller. I'm going on a FSBO today. Let's run through some FSBO objection handling. That's a powerful way to get better at all this stuff. But anyway, keep going here in terms of listings. What if you sent out 5 targeted unsolicited CMAs? What I call that, it's just basically to your database, just to email them and say, here's some market data on your home, and then to follow up with the call the next week to say, hey, we want to make sure you got my email. Do you have any needs? That type of thing. Do you think you might pick up some business that way? Mm-hmm. And you think if you did that, if you're not only educating them, so hopefully you're going to convert more than 75% of the listings to that sold sign because you're pricing it correctly, but you're probably going to then convert the appointments at a higher rate than that because those are database people, right? Those people that actually want to hear from you. You could use a Monday, Friday update system to keep in touch with different sellers, with the current sellers, excuse me. Who has a system for talking with their currently listed sellers?
I don't have a listing right now, but I do like on Monday, I'll call them and say, hey, give them the information and whatever suggestions I have for that.
I got you. So you're calling on Monday to kind of check in and perfect. That's awesome. Who else?
Yeah, we do the same thing. Monday check-in.
Monday
Give
check-in.
them an update. If anything else happens during the week, of course, we're reaching out.
Oh, of course.
But Monday, they
Right,
know.
yeah.
we're calling us.
I think everybody should have some sort of system like that. So that's awesome that y'all are working that. I personally, I'm a big fan of Monday, Friday, because what I do for that is Monday, that's the call, that's the text, however they like to communicate. That's the kind of voice to voice touch. And I pair that with Fridays is I'm emailing them, and I'm not just emailing them a 1 sentence thing of, hey, we had this many showings, have a great day. I'm usually giving them a couple of paragraphs that I'm writing out. And sometimes I've even literally gone through and just like kind of like brain dumped the Chat GPT and had them write out the email, but it's a couple paragraphs long. You can literally do something like that. We're saying, hey, this is what's happening in the market. This is the activity that we've gotten. This is what our competition is doing, because that's important information to give them, right? To say, hey, it's been on the market. We've been on the market for 5 weeks. No offers. That other home down the street was priced 10 grand less than you, and they're under contract already after 1 week. To kind of give them that information. But anyway, that's kind of my system for it, the Monday and Friday update system. I promise you, if y'all are not doing something like that, it could be once a week, it could be whatever it is your system, just make sure you're doing it. Because if you're not, your sellers are feeling like you're ignoring them. And in fact, I'll give you a personal example real quick. So I own some rental properties, and one of my rentals was vacant for like 3 months. And I still up in Clarksville. And I've had the same property management company for about 4 or 5 years now, and solid property management company. But my property manager retired his license, so the guy who was my guy there is no longer there. They hired somebody new, and I'm not going to throw the company name out there. but they hired somebody new, and you know, she reached out and she's like, hey, you know, we're at this price and all that. I would always be the one. I was always the one having to say, hey, we need to lower the price. What's been going on here over the last couple of weeks? I haven't heard from you. How do you think I felt as as a customer then?
Not good.
Not good. I felt ignored. I was like, what's actually happening out here? You know, versus if she had just said even once a week, a quick text of being like, hey, no activity, you know, please let us know if you need anything, that type of thing. At least then I would have felt seen. I would have felt ignored, right? Luckily that is no longer vacant, but that was earlier this year, and I was like, man, they need a lesson on Monday and Friday updates, you know. But anyway, and then the last thing with sellers, you know, that's on here. Get a price reduction on all listings that have been on the market for at least 3 weeks and have not received a bona fide offer. 3 to 5% for homes that have had serious interest, and 5 to 10% or more for homes with no interest. I know that might sound aggressive, but what do y'all think is easier, to get the first price reduction or the second price reduction?
First,
The first, yeah, exactly. Because what happens, Adam, after you call them the first time and they're like, all right, reduce it 10 grand, and you're like, well, we probably should be 25. All right, 10 grand, fine. I'll send you the paperwork. I'll DocuSign it over to you. And then 3 weeks later, you're like, hey, it hasn't sold yet. You know, and what's going to happen? They're going to be like, what?
we don't want to drop it again.
We don't want to drop it again. Why are we dropping it again? People are going to think there's something wrong with it. What's going on here? Are you doing your job? Are you marketing my home? You know, they're going to start saying those things. Whereas on the front end, if you had given them, you know, well, hey, we could drop it 25,000 now, or we could drop it 35,000 next week. Which one would you prefer? You know, they're going to say, well, 25 now. You know, and so you know, it's go for that larger reduction on the front end, and it's just going to help. But yeah, if you've had zero interest on a home, you might need to go 10%. You might need to go more. Be upfront with your clients about this too. By the way, tell them what's going on. Tell them, if you think 5% is the right number, you can tell them that. And you know, and if they're stuck at a 2% reduction instead of 5, tell them, all right, we can do that, but I really think we need to be at 5. And you know, make sure they know that if you're calling back in 2 weeks to say, hey, we need to drop it another 5%, then you know, it's not out of the blue. Just be upfront with them. So all right, so we went through the first 2 priorities, right? We talked leads, we talked listings. The next thing we are gonna talk about is, well, I don't know how I skipped a slide. Leverage. Leads, listings, leverage. Leverage is the people, the systems, and the tools that will allow you to multiply your efforts and achieve results beyond what you can do alone. I think that for most agents, we should be talking about the second 2 things on there: systems and tools. People can be fine. You might be able to leverage a few things out to people. I think most agents can stop it right there. You know what I mean? They don't need to go and look to hire and build a mega team. Maybe you do, but I think most agents, if they're keeping their expenses lean, and the worst way to keep your expenses lean is to start hiring people and having a salary and a bloated salary. You got to start paying somebody, right? You know, it's going to be a lot harder to hit those goal numbers that you have in terms of profit lines and all that by hiring. I'll leave it at that. But let's just jump into the third priority. So the third priority here is utilize the right people, systems, and tools so that I can create balance in my life and hit my goal while working less than 30 hours per week. Now, again, the whole goal of the priority is to make it specific, and yet to leave room for things to be nested underneath it. We're being specific right there, right? We're saying, hey, I'm setting a goal to say I'm gonna work 30 hours per week or less here this year coming up. One way to do that, one strategy could be hiring a contract to close transaction coordinator to handle the under contract work. We have one in our office, right? I'm Scott, right? And so you know, that might be something that could help you. Another strategy could be to diligently follow your calendar with extreme discipline, only scheduling real estate commitments Monday through Friday between 9 and 3 and after lead generation activities are complete. Just do the math. Monday through Friday, 9 to 3, that's 30 hours, right? So if you did that and you actually followed it, there's your 30 hours, you're hitting it. You could have 2 time blocks per month to complete and schedule all marketing efforts, offloading the creation of marketing materials to AI. Who's using AI in here?
A little bit.
So we got 3 hands and a little bit. So, no, hey, that's okay. You obviously don't need to if you don't want it. It's your, you know, everybody's got a different comfort level. That's understandable. I think we've seen enough videos and things and movies out there that I can understand the fear that some might have with it. I know AI has been super helpful to me. You know, it can definitely leverage a lot out, a lot that I'm not necessarily is not my superpower. If you can understand that. Like I'll give you a good example. I've been doing a lot of videos recently to advertise my coaching business. I'm fine with the actual content creation. I cannot stand writing captions and things like that, right? And it's just I'm not good at that. I start trying to think what hashtag should I use? What do I actually write here? It's probably the high D in me that I just don't like to do it. It's just not my thing. And so, but I'm happy to do it. Happy to do the content. And so what I'm getting at is like what my process for that is when I sit down and do it is I'll record all my videos and I'll edit them down. I'll literally take the audio version of it. I'll upload it into an AI software that transcribes it for me. Then I'll take my transcriptions and I'll upload that into another AI software and I'll say, all right, this is the video. What does my caption need to look like? So that way I don't need to think about it. I don't need to try to think, hey, what hashtags are gonna attract people on YouTube? You know, like what's gonna make sense here? AI can absolutely help with things like that if you're looking for ways for it to help. Does that make sense? I hope that example is helpful. I know that might be different for everybody, but if you're recording a marketing video and you're uploading it to your YouTube channel to to try to attract people to buy homes in Murfreesboro, right? You need to know what hashtags to use. You need to know how to actually get people to find your content, right? And I don't know. I don't know how to do that. AI knows how to do it better than I do. So if I give them the content, they can help me figure that out. Then the last thing I've got on here from a leverage standpoint, is, again, we're talking about people, systems, and tools, right? This is a time blocking system. Say no to all real estate requests that are not dollar productive or soul enriching. Man, I wish I could go back in time and like scream at myself 10 years ago and say and teach myself that. Because I know, and I'm sure probably everybody in a way probably feels that way. To some extent, or maybe change the last couple phrases slightly and be like, hey, I wish I could tell myself this a decade ago. But for me, that's a huge lesson to learn. To start saying no to requests that are not dollar productive or soul enriching. And that's gonna be different for everybody. Like I'm not like today is not dollar productive for me. You know, I'm not making money teaching, but I love teaching. So it's soul enriching for me. So I'm happy to be here. If I didn't like teaching, if this felt like a chore, then this should be a no, is what I'm trying to get at, you know? I used to this not knowing this, man, it burned me out on this business. That's why we were saying when I first got here, you guys didn't see me for like 2 years, right? Like I taught my last class probably like 2+ years ago because I was burned out, you know, I was burned out. I had said yes to way too much in the office, not just our office, my previous office, through KWYP. I used to be very big in KWYP. That burned me out because I hadn't learned this lesson. So I just wanted to stop on that. Say no to the things that aren't going to be dollar productive or that aren't going to light you up, you know, because you should feel lit up by what you do. That makes sense.
Mhm.
So where to? Let's keep rolling. I promise we're getting toward the end of it because I know you're probably sick of me rambling right now. I want to bring back that Bill Gates quote that we talked about at the very beginning, right? Where he said that people overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year and they underestimate what they can achieve in 5. With this new knowledge and direction, what do your long-term goals look like now? Have they changed at all? I'm just curious over the last hour plus. Maybe a little bit, maybe not. No? Well, that's okay. Maybe you have the clarity already, which is great. Hopefully you've gotten some clarity also on what needs to be done over the next 12 months. And if you got desire to grow that team, more agents having more admin help, I think there is a right and wrong way to go about it. Let's give you some of my thoughts on leverage real quick. And that is, be slow to hire and quick to fire. So this is somebody, I'm talking from a standpoint of somebody who went through the whole team growing process and hiring and, whether it's having an on-staff admin, bringing on buyers agents, doing all that stuff, figuring out what worked, what didn't work for me. I'd heard that and I hadn't necessarily figured out the quick to fire part of it, especially for, agents that just weren't a fit or, VAs that weren't a fit, virtual assistants. Look for personality matches and mismatches. I'm curious, what type of personality types do you think tend to fit in admin roles and agent roles? You all know?
Or it's like from a district.
Yeah, it could be disc, yeah.
Yeah, the analytical,
I heard 2 answers. Analytical is for what?
that the C, No,
Right, for the
Yeah.
admin or the
Yeah.
admin role?
yeah,
Yeah, they tends to be, yeah, yeah, and you know what I mean, and you can, I think any, I heard you say you're talking about for agent roles, yeah, it could be, I think as a solo agent, you can succeed if you're a D, I, S, or C, it doesn't really matter, if you structure your business to fit your personality, you can succeed as a solo agent. If you're bringing on an agent, like a buyer's agent, I think, yeah, you definitely need to have somebody who's got, at least got some eye in them, or they got some prominent eye in there. But yeah, just know your personality matches and mismatches. I hope we're still, I haven't done it in a few years, so I will put Mary on spot again. Are we still doing KPA and all that?
We don't do it consistently. That is one of my goals this year, is that everybody I work with, I want them to have a KPA.
Okay.
And we actually have a GPT that we will take your disc and your KPA and this other questionnaire that we have. We put all of those into that chat GPT for you.
Mhm.
And it will spit out the best lead generation for you.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Man, talk to Mary.
Speaking of AI.
Yeah, get that. I love that. But yeah, I guess the reason I was asking about the KPA is I found that to be super, like accurate. It was just all, it just tended to always peg people right on the nose, you know? And so, if you're hiring, and go through and use those types of things. Hire people with the same values as you. I don't mean that you have to believe every single thing that's the exact same. But like if you're a grinder and you're expecting, you don't care if you work 50, 60, 70 hours a week and you expect the person you're hiring to be the same thing, make sure they have that type of behavior in their background, that's their attitude. Because if you're hiring somebody who doesn't have that and they expect to work, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and be done after hours, probably going to have some strife, even if you get along and even if they're doing a good job, there's probably going to be some animosity there. So just bringing that up. Have a clear direction and mission for your business. Make sure the people you're bringing on are going the same way as you. I think that, man, that gets missed by a lot of people. I think your mission statement for your business, if you're the business owner, should be very close to your own personal mission. Because I mean, if not, why else are you doing it? It should be something that resonates with you as a person. But make sure you're projecting this to the people that you're bringing on. Hire and grow out of a desire for more. And I don't just mean more sales or more money or whatever. I mean like the things that we talked about at the very beginning, the purpose aspect of your life that you're hoping to, at least I hope that you plug into that aspect when you're growing your business here, to try to get more of that out of it is what I'm trying to say. And pain versus pleasure is that I mentioned being a bold nerd. I actually took bold 17 times back in the past. It's been a minute since I've taken it though. I still love pain versus pleasure in bold. It was a great lesson. We still teaching that in bold. Anybody go through bold recently? Is that still a lesson in there?
But,
I don't know that they covered it.
They didn't cover it anymore.
I can't remember.
It's a total new, totally been revamped.
I heard it's new. We said the new is not
It
always
was
bad
good.
by any means. It's good.
Yeah,
Good.
really good.
I'm glad to hear it. Pain versus pleasure, though. That's just a simple concept. It says we as people, everything we tend to do tends to be for one of two things. It's either because we are trying to move away from something painful or move towards something that's pleasurable. And there's no right or wrong, no bad or good about any of that stuff. It's just kind of it's important to recognize that. And I just say that never hire out of pain. And so like you might be going through a painful season in your business. You might be going through 3 months where things are just rocking, and I say painful like busy and just like scattered almost, like you're just trying to figure all this stuff out. But if it's only 3 months, like don't let that painful season have you make a decision to go hire somebody. Make sure it's something that you're moving toward, that you want to move toward. Make sure it's the pleasurable aspect of growth. Never bring on agents before admin help, because if you don't have an admin, you're going to be the admin. Don't just say, here's your desk, good luck, because people will only thrive if you invest your time and energy into them. I know there's something to be said about like sink or swim or people growing on their own, but like, man, I think we should really be if we're hiring somebody, like we should be there to help them. Don't just grow to grow. I just mentioned that. But then the last thing, don't proceed to the next stage of your growth before your current stage is solid. A home builder wouldn't be framing up a home before the foundation's poured. Build your business off a solid foundation. So meaning like don't just hire somebody and then the next day be like, all right, I'm bringing on an agent. Like make sure you got that person that got the right person in there. Growth milestones. I think most agents can handle about 2 to 3 homes per month, 24 to 36 a year before hiring like full-time admin help. Much more than that, they're likely to burn the candle at both ends. Everybody's different. Some can do a lot more, you know. But I think that's with having balance, you know. Aim to grow your business evenly. I've talked about that a little bit already. And then maintain your desired profit margins as you go. Because who cares if you sell more homes if you're making, you know, if you're not making more money while doing so, right? Like I know that was a lesson I had to learn, you know, because as a solo agent, I'm still thinking back. My most profitable year ever in real estate was 2017 before I ever hired anybody, you know, and that was I think I sold 35 homes. I don't remember what my exact numbers were, but I know it was somewhere in the 200s for GCI, and my profit line was like 70% because I didn't have any expenses. I was just I was a phone caller, you know. That's what I did. I had my split, and that was about it. Um, and of course, coaching and things like that. And you know, but then when I brought somebody on, you know, then you got that full time salary you're always paying. It's just I don't know. To me it didn't work. I think for most solo agents, it's not ideal. Last thing I'll say about growth. If you decide to grow, if you desire to grow, make sure your business can financially afford it. Because when you hire, you impact on other people's lives. You know, like you're hiring somebody, they could be leaving a job to come join you. We should take that as business owners. We should take that seriously. Like I think too often I've heard agents talk about it like so willy nilly, just like if they work, they work. You know, throw people at the wall, see who sticks, and it's just like that's awful. You know, these are people, these are human beings we're talking about. Like don't take that attitude with it. Like take this attitude with it. Like make sure that you're bringing the right people. But y'all, you've heard enough of me. I want to say that you know how to play. Get all this on paper. Get your GPS written out. Feel free to make an appointment with me if y'all want me to review your GPS with you. I'm absolutely happy to do so. What questions do y'all have? I'm gonna leave my last GIF up here for what questions do y'all have? If you don't have any, I got questions for y'all. I do have a question for y'all. And that is, if you had to say there's like one main takeaway from today, one thing you're going to implement aside from building a GPS, because that should be that's the whole point of today, obviously, the whole point of this class. Aside from that, what would it be? Like, what would be the one main takeaway from the day, the thing that maybe you hadn't looked at it that way, anything along those lines?
The profit first.
Profit first.
First and expenses, yeah.
I love that.
That hit me. And I thought, well, what do I want? I mean, how do I know what the profit is? So I'm putting vacation down and putting, you know,
Yes.
that down, what I want to do. And when I work for how many hours I play tennis, so I almost need a plaque that says I work to play tennis.
I love that.
I love that. So tennis, that's your big hobby. I love that. See, like for me, it's music. I love music, and like I want to make sure that I can, when I'm not working, that I can spend time with my family and I can work on music. Like those are my big things. And yes, keep tennis in front of you, so that way it's that reminder of it's not about work. It's selling homes is important. You got to keep the roof over the head. You got to keep food in the belly, right? But
I get business from tennis too.
there you go. Hey, there you go. I like it.
I ease into it. You know, I'm learning these new things to say, you know, and
She sat here yesterday and made 68 calls in this room, and a lot of them were tennis buddies.
I love it. Hey, that's awesome. Well, good job for you. And keep that up. That's awesome.
So did you come to your appointments as your tennis matches?
Tennis appointments. I love it. All right, what else? What are some other kind of main takeaways from today?
I need to learn my conversion rates.
Conversion rates. Oh, I love that. It's powerful. It's very, very powerful to learn those and to be able to plug it in and say to really have clarity on what that looks like. So that's awesome. Really, really good. What else?
Plan, it's only effective if you follow it.
100%. Because that's the thing. We've all probably sat through some sort of class about the GPS before, right? And if not, you hopefully read the one thing, like it's all in there. It talks about the GPS, you know, a ton. But the plan, like that doesn't, like actually putting it on paper doesn't matter if you don't actually then put the work into effect. One thing I didn't touch on the GPS that I probably should have, and I kind of touched on it a little bit by saying things like the Monday, Friday update for sellers, the follow-up Wednesdays, you know, things like that, where there's routine items that should show up on the calendar. Make sure the other things from your GPS are showing up on there too. So like if you're just taking an example from the GPS, the day you're building a FSBO plan, right? Say you're putting a FSBO plan in your business, make sure you got time on your calendar every day or however often you're doing it. Say it's 8:30 to 9 every day. You're going to be in there pulling up the new FSBO leads, dialing them, and whatever that looks like. I mean, you create that how you want, but just make sure it shows up on your calendar, and that way it's not just on a piece of paper that you look at hopefully every day, but maybe at best once a week for a lot of agents. Make sure it just shows up in your calendar. That's what I get that. That's awesome. I love it. Yes.
I like how you said the thing about not working at night or on the weekends. How do you do that? Like, how do you manage that? Do you have a team, or do you just tell people you don't work on the weekends and at night?
Yeah. I mean,
You just
it's really that
tell them
simple.
Yeah.
Most people respect that. I mean, think of it this way. If you were calling, I don't know, name a professional aside from that's not in the real estate industry.
Like a lawyer.
Lawyer, perfect.
Yeah.
Say you have an attorney and you call them at Thursday at 7:00 p.m. You expect them to answer?
Right.
No, you said right. Do you expect
Yeah.
them to answer or no?
No.
No, see, I don't. Yeah, I wouldn't expect them to answer. My wife and I bought a truck a couple weeks ago. It was the week of Thanksgiving. I called my insurance agent, and who's a buddy of mine. Like, I'm going to a hockey game with him next weekend, right? And he's a friend of mine. He's my insurance guy. And called him, let him know we got a new truck. I want to make sure we had coverage and all that. And he was on vacation. Which is absolutely fine. Like, I had no problem with him being on vacation because I emailed him too, and he emailed me the next day. He's like, "Hey, I'm in Mexico with my wife, and but I'll get you taken care of." And it's like that wasn't a big deal. It's so like we're human beings. Like, I don't know why we think that we have a real estate license, so we've got to be on call 24/7. Like, that's ridiculous. And so I love that was an aha for you. And
Yeah.
you said you got a family at home, right? You said a couple
Yeah.
of kids. How old are your kids?
They're 11 and 13.
11 and 13. So I'm sure you got
Boys.
stuff I'm sure you got stuff all the time going on, right?
Soccer, lots of
Yeah.
soccer. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, how much more rewarding will life be if you're able to be fully present with them as much as you can,
Yeah.
Versus, worried about this at 6 p.m. or something
Right.
like that,
So how would you handle a situation where like an offer comes in at night? Would you just
Call the next day. I mean, why, first off, how would you even know it came?
so you just don't check your email or
I don't check my email after hours, no. No, I mean,
Me
if-
either.
yeah.
I
'cause-
got an offer last night and I did not check my.
Yeah, like, there's nothing in real estate that's going to happen after hours that can't wait until the next day.
Next day.
I mean, there's really not. There's a lot of things you can do. Like, if you really wanted to, you could, and it's a little tough once you've been in business for a minute, but you could, because there's certain changes you have to make, like systematic changes, but you could go as far as to get a second phone. I did that at one point. Like, I have two phone lines. They're both on this now. Like, I figured out how to do an eSIM, but like, I've got two phone lines. And I did that because I remember it was sometime around the pandemic. It was maybe late 2020. Because I remember the client I was dealing with, I vividly remember having to wear a mask. That's why I'm thinking it was like 2020. But anyway, I remember just like something blew up with this client, and this was before I had really instituted as much as many boundaries as I have
Yeah.
now. And I remember getting a text at like Friday late at night from this person that just like set me off, ruined my night, started ruining my weekend. And I was like, I don't need to be doing that. And so that's
Yeah.
when I made the decision, hey, I'm gonna get a second phone line, and I mean, like, if I wanted to, I can turn the work phone line off right now if I want to. I mean, like, it's so easy to do that and make those changes if you want, but you just got to institute it.
Yeah.
If you don't want to get a second phone line, you can, or a second phone, you can get a Google line,
Uh-huh.
and you can use that.
And
I gotta say, it's tough to change this if you started because you've got like signs with your phone number on it already, certain things like that you gotta
Right.
change. Like when I got a new phone line, I made that my personal. Like, my wife jokingly called it the bat phone. Like, it was my phone, that was my personal number. But there's things like that you can do. And then, just telling people like, I work traditional hours like that. And you don't have to define that unless you want it. Like, when I say traditional hours, I say I work traditional business hours. And I kind of leave it that vague, because if somebody calls me at 8 a.m., that's fine. I'm an early riser, so I don't mind if they call me before that even. But if I'm done for the day, if my wife and daughter get home and it's 4:30 and I want to be done there, and somebody calls me at 4:45 and I don't want to answer it, I don't feel like I have to answer it, because I'm not
Right.
a Walgreens and wait until 10 o'clock at night till the phone. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And so anyway, I could ramble on that forever.
I know, so you don't do Saturday, Sunday, so you have other people do the open house, is that correct?
Yeah, I haven't done open house in years. I cover yours, Mary. I hate open house.
Hey,
Um,
I look at how many agents I tell, yeah, I don't do open houses anymore.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, I
because
know.
I don't like doing them. I didn't like doing them back when I did them, and I don't like doing them. I'm not good at them. Like I think the best open house agents tend to be like the high I, the high S. Like if you look at my disc, I'm a 99D, and my next highest is a C,
Mhm.
and so I am not an IS at all.
Yeah.
And
It's great for new agents who need to meet buyers.
Sure.
So
yeah,
I like new agents to take.
I mean,
there's-
I find that a lot of people now are going to open houses because they don't want to sign off with an agent.
sure, I can see that.
So that's what they're doing, so that's why maybe I need to change my thinking now that, and go on and go ahead and get a few done.
So if you wanted to, and you wanted to keep, your weekends, what I would recommend would be looking at doing them in a like late afternoon during
Yeah.
the week. You know,
Twilight.
like you could do a 4 to
Twilights.
Yeah, exactly. You could do a Wednesday 4 to 6 or something like that if you wanted to. Because most people, I don't think most buyers are just like, hey, it's Sunday at 2 o'clock. Let's drive around and look for signs. Like, no, they're going on whatever, Zillow, whatever, and they're finding the open house advertisements on their chosen website, and then saying, oh, this one here at 123 Chestnut Street looks cute. Let's go and they're holding an open house on Sunday. Let's go out there on Sunday and look at it. So logically, if there was that buyer and they were like, well, hey, I want to see 123 Chestnut Street, and they're doing an open house Wednesday from 4 to 6. They're going to show up then, right? So that would be my recommendation if you wanted to do opens, but you wanted to keep your weekends free. And again, I say most weekends I don't work. Occasionally, I'll have a client that I want to work with, and they also work Monday through Friday regular hours. I mean, it's not written in stone for me, but it's pretty damn close. You know, I mean, it's where it's like you're not gonna catch me in the evenings or on the weekends. And if it's a weekend, it's gonna be like a Saturday morning, and we're gonna make time, and that's about it. You know.
Yeah.
So do you, hearing you speak, sounds like you, over your career, are using or calling a lot of expires and FSBOs, so that.
I have, yes. I don't anymore because that was not my life by design, but I did it for years. Yes, I did a ton of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing expireds, been focusing on expireds mostly, but I know I need to implement FSBOs because I think I'll get a better pickup rate.
I would imagine.
FSBOs.
I would imagine so. One of the reasons I stopped doing them, aside from just not enjoying them, was it was actually around the pandemic because
I don't enjoy it.
Well,
But
I remember I used to use a system called Mojo. They're they like a triple line dialer and all that to
I'm using
call.
Vulcan.
And so yeah, similar. And so like Vulcan, I imagine does the same thing. Mojo would give me my conversion rates. Like I could log if I made an appointment and all that, but I would log every time I hung up, I would have to log, was this a contact? Was it a left message? No answer, whatever. And so I've noticed that over the years, like from about 2018 to early 2020, the end of 2021, my pickup rates for expired went from like 6 to 7% to like less than 3%.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if it was just people being home during the pandemic and then they were like, I'm just not answering the phone for people anymore. I don't know if it was a rise in spam calls or what, but like the pickup rate went down so much. And I would consider a pickup anybody who would answer the phone that I could get out of my mouth and say, hey, I'm in real estate.
Right.
Like,
Even wrong numbers.
even if it's a wrong number,
Yeah.
as long as I'm like, hey, I'm Rob, I'm a local real estate agent, so what I'm calling about, as long as I get that out, that was a pickup. Even if
Right.
it was like you got the wrong number, I'm in Delaware, and, it's it doesn't matter. And so I saw that pickup rate drop that significantly. To me, it was just not worth the energy at that point anymore, especially since I didn't like doing it. You know what I mean? Because the pickup rate was so low. FSBOs were better because you got to think they're wanting to sell their home. They're putting an active phone number out there. A lot of expireds, you could call an expired that somebody found data for them, and that data could be 10 years old. They could have had a new cell phone number between now and then.
You know what I find crazy is on my FSBOs, when I go to pull up the list on Vulcan, I'd say at least 40% have all their numbers on the do not call list. And I'm like, what? That makes no sense. You want people to call to buy your house, but you've got your number listed on the do not call list.
You might want to ask the man about that aspect, but I would. I personally-
wouldn't call.
was that?
I mean, if it's on the list, I wouldn't call.
I don't, and I've
Even
got
if
it
it's
where
on
I can
Facebook,
click on, don't make those
Just go
calls.
visit,
Yeah,
you know,
knock on
those
the
go
door, yeah.
visit, yeah.
Thank you so much. I gotta head out, but
Yeah,
thank
absolutely.
you.
Thank you for coming. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
We don't check Zillow to see if it's there and we call them then?
Walk to the line, if they're on the do not call list, then you're calling them for business.
And again, he's the man on this. I always look at it as a huge gray area because that's somebody they're trying to sell their home. I'm talking about FSBOs, not talking about expireds at all
Right.
here. I'm talking about FSBOs. Like they're actively trying to sell their home. They're actively putting their phone number out there. And what do we do for a living?
Make phone calls.
No, no.
Talk to people.
What do we sell homes,
We
right?
sell
They want to
homes,
sell their home. We sell homes. And so like that's always been my way of looking at FSBOs and the BNC, but that's
Yeah, gray area, you just gotta be,
Just know that you're to be
taking a big risk.
and I would imagine too,
I'll
it's
cross that
And
line.
if that one, you just go visit them, why not visit them?
Or
The
sell
only
them.
reason I'll cross that line is to say if I call an expired and end up having a conversation, it's like, oh no, that's my dad's house that you're talking about. And I'm like, oh, he goes, yeah, but here's his phone number.
yeah. Well, and I completely get where you're coming from in terms of just visiting them. I think it also depends on your approach with them too, right? So if you're calling a FSBO and they're trying to sell their home and you're just calling, you could be calling to say, hey, I want to find out more information about your home. Are you working with agents who bring in a buyer? If so, can I come see your property? That type of thing. To me, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're calling them and saying, hey, I have helped a lot of for sale by owners sell their homes over the years. I would like to represent you. That's a little bit different, I think. So I think it depends on your approach.
Soliciting or not.
Yeah, because one, I think the second call I just made was a pretty pure solicitation, whereas the first one was more of a, hey, you're selling your home. I sell homes. Tell me about your home. Can I come see it? Like, there's a little bit of a difference there, I think. But
Yeah.
but Jimmy's absolutely right. I mean, that's you're putting yourself on the line if there is an issue there. Is what it is.
Yeah, I don't play with it. Play with that. Mm-mm.
Well, guys, anything else? I know it looks like we're setting up for team meeting. Any other questions? Any ahas y'all want to share?
Good, good.
Yeah, go for it, Stephen.
You had the 1 year, you're doing your 1 year planning.
Yeah.
Are you doing a single year or you're not doing like a 1, 3, 5, you're like a distance plan and like back to?
So this is more about looking at it for this year, right? Looking at it for the next 12 months, saying, hey, in 2026, by the end of 2026, this is what I'll have accomplished. I think for this standpoint, you should be thinking about what you want to get out of 5 years from now, or 3 years from now. You absolutely can do similar. I wouldn't go as detailed on like this, how many appointments I need to go on in 2028. But you could say, say you want to grow a real estate team. You could say, all right, well, in 2028, by the end of 2028, I want to be at like a Red Book level 4 business. So, that would be agent, admin, second agent, second ad, right? Say that's where you want to be in 3 years from now, at the end of 2028. Well, then kind of reverse engineer it. Based on that, roughly how much business would you have to see in 2028? Well, then exponentially, or like not exponentially, like sequentially, what would be your growth plan? Where would you have to go from in 2026 to then hit 2027 and then hit that number in 2028?
They're using the stick chart right there, just without adding in any potential or increased spending or home rent.
Oh no, you're thinking about the increased spending there because in 2028 you're thinking, all right,
You're gonna
well,
have to add in that.
Yeah.
spending.
because like in that hypothetical, the 2025 agent who's a solo agent, their expense line is going to be nearly non-existent because they're going to hopefully, unless they're spending much money on marketing or something, because they don't have a $40,000 or $50,000 admin, they don't have a second admin who's either full or part time or whoever that's also on staff. I mean, right there, that could be $100,000 in expenses for that 2028 agent that we're talking about that the 2026 agent does not have.
Right.
So you absolutely are thinking about that long term,
And I do have, if you're interested, I have the goal setting for the now that you can do, which starts with someday goals and then goes to 5 year and then 1 year, monthly and weekly.
Have you read the book The One Thing yet?
Right.
So it's a great book. So that's straight from the book The One Thing.
Mhm.
It's a Gary Keller book. It's not so much about real estate as much as it is about focus and priorities in life. I think you can apply that to about anything you want to accomplish in life. I would check that book out too. That kind of hopefully give you a little bit of clarity on that like sequential steps from going from here to here to here to here. And it does break it down to what do I need to do today? What do I need to do this year? What do I need to do in the next 5 years to hit my number?
Yeah, my background has always been that I plan to show it's like everything based off of continuously doing a 1 every year you do a one, but it's actually a 6-year plan, and you kind of go back and forth and.
I think if you could, I think you'd be very much getting into the minutia, especially with things like how many appointments, because if you were looking at, even if you were looking at just say how many appointments you would need to go on in 2027, right? Well, hopefully, especially if somebody, it's 15 weeks in the business, like you said, hopefully there's going to be a big difference in your conversion rates for the first quarter of next year and the last quarter of next year. But hopefully you'll have grown, you'll have learned so much over that 9-month span between the two that your conversion rates might go from 50% in Q1 to 75% in Q4, or higher, and so it's going to be really hard then to reverse engineer a lot of the minutia, but you can look at it from a big picture and say, all right, well, like Mary was saying, a someday goal. Say you have a someday goal to have a real estate team, be fully retired out of real estate, from your team. Well, 5 years from now, what has to happen to make that happen? Maybe you have to have a level 7 team, like a Red Book. Have you read the Red Book yet? Yeah, check it out. Like, especially like when I'm saying, I'm talking about the org chart though. And level 7 is kind of like being out of the business just about. Maybe that's the case 5 years from now. Well, if that's the case 5 years, well, 4 years, where do you want it to be? 3 years, etc. Let's kind of walk backward. Does that help at all?
Oh, yeah, I mean, this was curious because, we took a 1 year out, we always talk about the 1 year, it's supposed to be processing beyond that 1 year.
No, that's a great point.
Okay, I'll go look.
Especially like with my first year, there's just gonna be a baseline. Happens in the world, and then run it off a baseline.
I would want to encourage you to not just look at it like what happens. It's definitely things like your conversion rate, because you might not know today what your conversion rate
What
is.
I need to do.
Yeah, but you should look at it from like what's going to sustain your life and your business by the end of next year. What makes it a success, like especially from a financial standpoint. And so that way, you're always aiming for that. And you might have to make adjustments as you go. Like you might be at the end of the first quarter next year and be like, well, hey, I'm behind on this number. I have to make a little bit of adjustments going into Q2. And that's okay. I just think you gotta make adjustments as you get what I'm trying to
Because there's
say.
gonna be a lot of stumbles in your first.
Yeah, but still have that target that you're aiming for. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Well, thank y'all. I know we are at time. Mary's kicking us out because we have team meeting. And so, awesome. Well, thank y'all for being here. My pleasure. Thank you. My pleasure. I'll be here.